It's like living in an abusive household. You feel you don't know what's going to happen next, what crazy thing is going to happen next, what's going to make you say, what the hell's going on?
Robert De Niro is more than an actor. He's a force of nature. A two-time Oscar winner, his name is basically shorthand for a raw, transformative dedication that very few actors ever achieve. When you think of method acting, you think of him. You think of the young Vito Corleone, for which he learned Sicilian. You think of Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull, where he famously packed on 60 pounds. You think of Max Cady in Cape Fear, where he paid a dentist a small fortune to grind down his teeth just to look more terrifying. That's the De Niro legend, an artist who doesn't just play a character, he becomes him. His hunt for authenticity is relentless and absolute. But that same intensity, the very thing that made him a legend, can be a nightmare for his co-stars. On screen, it's pure magic. Behind the scenes, it can be all-out war. For every masterpiece De Niro helped create, there are stories of on-set friction, quiet battles, and seriously bruised egos. His legendary focus can come off as cold indifference, and his deep dive into a character can feel like a personal attack to whoever is in the scene with him. He operates on a different level, and not everyone is willing or able to go there with him. The line between performance and reality often gets blurry, leaving a trail of tense, uncomfortable, and sometimes outright hostile relationships in its wake. And that famous intensity isn't just for the camera. It has sparked some of the most bitter and long-lasting feuds in Hollywood. From a comedy icon who was the target of brutal on-set insults, to a fellow star who still holds a grudge decades later, we're counting down the 7 actors Robert De Niro hated the most. You are not going to believe who's at number 1. Coming in at number 7, we've got a story that isn't about 2 actors hating each other, but about the terrifying fallout of one actor's process on another. This one involves a young actress on the verge of superstardom and a De Niro so deep in character that he completely erased the line between acting and psychological torment. The actress was Juliette Lewis, and the film was the bone-chilling 1991 thriller, Cape Fear. When Lewis was cast as Danielle Bowden, the vulnerable teenager being stalked by De Niro's monstrous Max Cady, she was just a teen herself. She was a rising star, but she was about to run into a Category 5 hurricane. De Niro's prep for Max Cady was already becoming Hollywood legend. He chiseled his body into a wall of muscle covered in tattoos and had his teeth professionally filed down to look more unhinged. He wasn't just playing a predator, he was living as one. For Lewis, this meant her scene partner wasn't the respected actor Bob De Niro, but Max Cady, the ex-con from hell. The most infamous example of this happened while filming a critical scene where Cady corners Danielle in her school theater. The scene was written to be a masterclass in suspense, but De Niro took it somewhere no one, especially Lewis, was ready for. During one take, De Niro, completely in character, started improvising. He toyed with Lewis's hair, his movements creepy and unpredictable. Then, in a moment that became iconic for its skin-crawling horror, he stuck his thumb in her mouth. That was not in the script. It wasn't rehearsed. That was pure, unfiltered De Niro, channeling the invasive, violating nature of his character in the most direct way imaginable. For the young Lewis, the shock was real. Years later, she reflected on the moment, recognizing its artistic power but also the deep discomfort it caused. Working opposite someone so completely lost in such a dark role was a true test of her nerves. This incident is the perfect De Niro dilemma. His commitment makes for unforgettable movies, but it often comes at a high price for his fellow actors. He uses discomfort as a tool, almost a weapon, to provoke a genuine reaction. In this case, the fear you see on Juliette Lewis's face isn't just great acting. It's the real-time reaction of an actress being psychologically ambushed by a master of the craft. While Lewis has never publicly condemned De Niro for it, the stories from the Cape Fear set paint a picture of an actor whose process could be isolating and terrifying, especially for a young co-star caught in the crossfire. Number 6. we have a fascinating case of what happens when two method-acting titans collide. This wasn't a veteran schooling a newcomer. This was a battle of equals, each with a reputation for being fiercely dedicated to their craft. The actor was Edward Norton, and the battlefield was the set of the 2001 heist thriller, The Score. On paper, the film was a dream, bringing together three generations of acting royalty: Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, and the ascendant Edward Norton. In reality, it was a masterclass in professional tension. Norton, known for his intense preparation and a tendency to want creative input, came to the set with his own very specific ideas for his character, a sharp young thief who poses as a man with an intellectual disability to get a job inside the Montreal Customs House. The problem, as the story goes, is that Norton's method clashed spectacularly with De Niro's. According to on-set reports, Norton would sometimes maintain his character's disabled persona between takes, a choice that did not go over well with the veteran. De Niro, a man who famously drove a cab for Taxi Driver and lived in Sicily for The Godfather Part 2, believes in rigorous real-world research, not performative exercises on set. The tension reportedly boiled over when De Niro allegedly made a sharp comment loud enough for Norton to hear. "I've learned from real people, not from acting like them." That one line says it all. It was a philosophical war. For De Niro, the work is about authentic experience. For Norton, it was about staying in a state of being. The atmosphere on set turned frosty. Some stories claim the conflict got so bad that De Niro refused to be on set with Norton unless the cameras were rolling. Their interactions were apparently limited to action and cut, creating what one crew member called a masterclass in frozen professional courtesy. Stepping into this mess was the legend himself, Marlon Brando. In one of his final film roles, Brando, a notoriously eccentric figure in his own right, apparently tried to play mediator. However, reports suggest he ultimately sided with his old friend De Niro, leaving Norton even more isolated. The film's director, Frank Oz, had the thankless job of managing these three huge and very different personalities. This wasn't a screaming match. It was a quiet, cold war fought with side eyes and subtle jabs, a clash of egos and methods that proved that even when you assemble a dream team, you don't always get harmony. Our number 5 spot takes us to the glitzy, grimy world of Las Vegas, on the set of Martin Scorsese's masterpiece, Casino. Here, the conflict wasn't about mutual hatred, but about an actress's dream job turning into a high-stakes psychological chess match. The actress was Sharon Stone, and her on-screen husband was, of course, Robert De Niro. For Sharon Stone, landing the role of Ginger McKenna in 1995 was the part of a lifetime. It was a complex, brutal role, and it meant she would finally get to work with De Niro, an actor she'd admired for years. She had auditioned with him multiple times before, and this was her big shot. She got her wish. But working with De Niro was more intense than she could have ever imagined. De Niro, playing the obsessive casino boss Sam Ace Rothstein, brought his usual laser-focused intensity. Stone threw herself into the role of Ginger, a charismatic hustler whose life spectacularly unravels. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, a toxic cocktail of passion and poison. But to get there, De Niro apparently pushed her buttons, both in character and out. Stone has talked about how De Niro's method was both inspiring and maddening. The breaking point reportedly came during a scene where Ace and Ginger are having a massive fight. In the middle of a take, De Niro's character says to her, "You're a good actress, you know that?" For Stone, hearing those words from her idol, in the middle of an intense performance, didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like a test. She recalled being furious, feeling like he was poking her to see if she'd break character. This was classic De Niro, blurring the lines to get something real. He wasn't just acting with her, he was acting on her. While the result was a performance that nabbed Stone an Oscar nomination, the process was a grind. One documentary claims that after the film wrapped, Stone made a joke at a gala about De Niro's immersive style, saying, "Sometimes you wish he'd just act instead of live in it." De Niro was reportedly in the audience and took it as a major slight. While that story is unconfirmed, it speaks to the thin line between professional respect and personal resentment that often defined his work. Stone wanted to work with a legend, and she learned that to survive, she had to be just as tough as he was. Coming in at number 4 is a rivalry that's less of a personal feud and more of a long-running professional contest between two of Hollywood's heaviest hitters. This is the story of Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, a saga built on boxing movies, professional one-upmanship, and a ton of fake news. The story of their feud is tied directly to their most famous roles. In 1976, Stallone's underdog, classic Rocky, went head-to-head with De Niro's gritty masterpiece, Taxi Driver, for the Best Picture Oscar. Rocky won, creating a rivalry in the public's mind. Stallone, the people's champ, versus De Niro, the critics' darling. 4 years later, De Niro stepped into the ring himself, winning his own Oscar for playing Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull. The stage was set for decades of comparisons between Hollywood's two greatest cinematic B. We're about to hit our top 3, and believe me, the stories only get more intense from here. If you're enjoying this peek behind the Hollywood curtain, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next. We're digging into the biggest feuds and wildest stories every single week. All right, let's get to the top 3. At number 3, we have a modern clash of the titans, a conflict that played out on the set of one of the biggest movies of the last decade. This wasn't a feud fueled by insults or jealousy, but by a deep, philosophical disagreement on the art of acting itself. The movie was 2019's Joker, and the actor who went toe-to-toe with De Niro's old-school style was the one and only Joaquin Phoenix. On paper, this was a perfect match. Joker was designed as a gritty tribute to Scorsese films like Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. De Niro was even cast as the talk show host Murray Franklin, a role that directly mirrored Jerry Lewis's character from The King of Comedy. Phoenix, who called De Niro his favorite American actor, should have been thrilled. The collaboration should have been seamless. It was not. The tension started before they even filmed a single frame. De Niro, a firm believer in preparation, insisted on a full table read of the script with the entire cast. For him, it's a vital part of the process. For Phoenix, it's torture. He hates rehearsals, preferring to discover the character in the moment, not in a sterile conference room. He flatly refused to do it. Director Todd Phillips was stuck between two Oscar winners. De Niro wouldn't budge. He reportedly told Phillips, "Tell him he's an actor, and he's got to be there." Phoenix caved and showed up, but the vibe was incredibly awkward. He apparently mumbled his lines and left for a cigarette the first chance he got. De Niro then asked to speak with Phoenix privately, but Phoenix refused, wanting to maintain their distance. That distance became the theme of their entire working relationship. The two stars barely spoke to each other on set. Phoenix later said, "The first day we said good morning, and beyond that, I don't know that we talked much." De Niro, for his part, thought their off-screen silence actually helped the movie. He said, "His character and my character, we didn't need to talk about anything. Relate as the characters to each other." And in a strange way, he was right. The real-world tension between them created an electric, palpable energy on screen. The fragile peace was only brokered after the disastrous table read. Seeing how uncomfortable Phoenix was, De Niro reportedly took his co-star's face in his hands, kissed him on the cheek, and said, "It's going to be okay, Bubba." It was a moment of grace in a strained partnership that proves sometimes the most challenging collaborations create the most powerful art. Our number 2 spot goes to a feud that is a perfect and frankly disturbing example of De Niro's method. It's a story of how he used real-life psychological warfare, including shocking and offensive tactics, to get a genuine reaction from a comedy legend. The film was 1982's The King of Comedy, and the target of De Niro's on-set torment was the iconic Jerry Lewis. In the film, De Niro plays Rupert Pupkin, a delusional, aspiring comic who stalks and kidnaps his idol, talk show host Jerry Langford, played by Lewis. To capture Pupkin's creepy mix of worship and aggression, De Niro decided he needed to create real tension with Lewis, an old-school entertainer whose entire style was built on vaudevillian energy. Their acting philosophies were from different planets, and De Niro decided to weaponize that difference. During their scenes, De Niro, completely in character as the invasive Pupkin, would constantly improvise, getting in Lewis's personal space. But according to multiple reports, he took it to a shocking and deeply uncomfortable place. The most explosive allegation is that to get a truly disgusted reaction from Lewis, who was Jewish, De Niro would repeatedly hurl anti-Semitic insults at him between takes. The tactic, however brutal, worked. The pure contempt you see on Jerry, Langford's face is not just acting. It's the genuine anger of Jerry Lewis being relentlessly provoked. For De Niro, this was just part of the process. He later admitted he couldn't remember his exact words but owned up to the strategy, saying he did it to really bust his balls. For him, his co-star's emotional distress was a small price to pay for authenticity. For Jerry Lewis, the experience was miserable. He was a legend, used to being in control, and suddenly he was being psychologically battered for the sake of art. Years later, Lewis confessed that he and De Niro hated each other during filming. He described De Niro's method as alienating, and the entire production as emotionally draining. He respected the final film, but the process of getting there was ugly. This feud is maybe the most chilling example of De Niro's unwavering commitment to his process, no matter who gets hurt. He didn't just want to act opposite Jerry Lewis, he wanted to make Jerry Lewis hate him. And he succeeded. And here we are, at number 1. This isn't just a story of on-set tension or clashing methods. This is the most bitter, personal, and longest-running feud of Robert De Niro's entire career. It's a conflict that stretched over 30 years, packed with public insults, wild accusations, and claims of career sabotage. The actor at the heart of this firestorm is none other than Mickey Rourke. It all started back in 1987 on the set of the dark thriller Angel Heart. Rourke, a rising star with a rebellious streak, had the lead role of Private Eye Harry Angel. De Niro, already a living legend, played the sinister Louis Cyphre. From day one, the two method actors were on a collision course. Rourke, who idolized De Niro, was thrilled to work with his hero, but De Niro had a different idea. To keep the hostility between their characters authentic, De Niro approached Rourke and said, "I think it's better if we don't talk." For Rourke, this was a slap in the face. He felt dismissed and disrespected by the man he looked up to. The tension grew from there, and the experience left a scar on Rourke that never faded. As he famously put it years later, "I don't look up to him no more. I look through him. Every time I look him in the face, I look right through his amawe for Versailles." Years the feud was quiet, but it exploded back into public view in 2019 with Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. Rourke publicly claimed he was up for a role in the film, but that De Niro, the film's star and producer, personally blocked him. According to Rourke, the casting director told his manager that Robert De Niro said he refused to work with me in a movie. For Rourke, who said he desperately needed the money, this was the ultimate betrayal, proof that De Niro was actively sabotaging his career. De Niro's camp fired back immediately. His reps and the film's producers released a statement saying Mickey Rourke was never asked to be in The Irishman, nor was he ever even thought of, discussed, or considered to be in the movie. This denial just poured gasoline on the fire. Rourke went on Instagram with a furious, profanity-filled rant aimed squarely at De Niro. "Hey, Robert De Niro, that's right, I'm talking to you, you big fading crybaby," he wrote, before accusing De Niro of being a liar and making a chilling threat. "When I see you, I swear to God on my grandmother, on my brother and all my dogs, I'm going to embarrass you severely 100%. This is more than a simple disagreement. It's a blood feud." Rourke's raw, public rage is the complete opposite of De Niro's typical public silence. Whether De Niro actually vetoed Rourke from the film is a Hollywood mystery, but for Rourke, the belief that his hero wronged him has defined their relationship for over 30 years. It's a bitter story of an idol falling from grace, which has spiraled into what is, without a doubt, the most intense and hateful feud of Robert De Niro's legendary career, from the psychological warfare on Cape Fear to the Cold War of method. Acting on The Score. The story of Robert De Niro's career is also a story of conflict. His absolute dedication to finding the truth in a character has given us some of the greatest moments in film history, but it's also left a trail of broken relationships and bitter feuds in its wake. Whether it was the calculated antagonism towards Jerry Lewis, the clash of styles with Joaquin Phoenix, or the decades-long explosive war with Mickey Rourke, De Niro's process has always demanded a lot, not just from himself, but from everyone, lucky or unlucky enough to share the screen with him. These stories show that behind the Hollywood gloss, acting is a job, and sometimes your co-workers can become your greatest enemies. De Niro's legacy as one of the all-time greats is untouchable, but it's a legacy built not just on talent, but on a fearsome intensity that has both created art and fueled the flames of some of Hollywood's most unforgettable feuds. So, what? Do you think? Is De Niro's intense method a necessary evil for his genius? Or does he just take things way too far? Who do you side with in these feuds? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into Hollywood's biggest rivalries, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.